we've now reached a point where a lot of cynics say, well, the problem for Conservatives now is there's nothing left to conserve.
Right.
Look at the mess our governance arrangements are in, the lack of investment, really, on the part of younger people in democratic capitalism. Look at the state of the family, the universities, the media, churches, religious denominations. They're all pretty decayed. What's left to conserve? What can conservatism offer?
Well, look, to be sure, this question is the right question to be asking now. And young people, especially, who grew up feeling that they haven't really inherited anything good. There's many, many, many young people like that, and it's a little bit harder for older people to admit this or ask this question. But I think the young people are right. I think that so much has been destroyed: God and Scripture, nation and family, the sacred, the honorable. And now even the distinction between man and woman. Look, the Cultural Revolution is capable of destroying absolutely everything, and it will destroy everything. And so at this point, I think in this book I make the New Conservatism book. I make two arguments. One has to do with the national, sort of the public level, and one has to do with our personal lives. The argument at the public level is that that at this moment, what conservatives more than anything need, when talking about sort of high politics, the politics of countries and states and things, what we need more than anything else is examples of successful conservative government. That can be, in different countries, or it can be in subdivisions, like states of a federation. I don't know Australia so well, but in the United States, that there are many states where there still is a majority that is sufficiently conservative so that an alliance could be built to say, look, we've had enough of liberal democracy. We want conservative democracy. We want a democracy that focuses on preservation and restoration, and therefore can serve as a model for others how things might be done. So that's an argument about kind of about the national level, recognizing that there are subdivisions where conservatism is still possible as a public philosophy, but conservatives have to be willing to do it. They have to be willing to take political risks in order to have more conservative government where it's feasible democratically. The other part of the argument has to do with the personal lives of anyone picking up the book, or anyone thinking about this question of how can we achieve restoration. At the personal level, the problem is in many ways more severe, because young people will say, look, it's all very fine to talk about the traditional family, but I didn't grow up in a traditional family. I grew up in a broken family, and it's fine to talk about the benefits of congregational life, but I didn't grow up in a congregation. I don't believe in any religion. I don't know how to do any of those things. And when we're facing this issue of liberalism at the personal level, people leading a liberal life, and many people coming to recognize that this liberal life of freedom and equality and consent and nothing else, just those things alone. Well, we can see in every democratic society, we see where that leads within 2 generations. Since World War II, 2 generations, 3 at the most. Where does it lead? It leads to the point where a young man and a young woman who want to marry and to stay married are unable to do so. Everybody's scared to get married. If they do get married, they don't know how to make a marriage work, so they end up getting divorced. If they're too scared to have children, so the the fertility rate drops, and with devastating consequences both personally and nationally. And this is it. Hesitation and fear and confusion is the ultimate end of being raised in a liberal philosophy. And what I've urged people to do, although I know that for some people this is easier and for some people this is very difficult, but the important thing to understand, the key to the whole issue, is to understand that human beings are they're only happy and healthy psychologically and physically. They're only happy and healthy when they have a place, an appropriate fitting place within a human hierarchy to which they are loyal and that they respect. Now, I'm not talking at this point about the nation. I'm talking at first about the way that families and congregations, which is an alliance of families, how they work. And people like Jordan Peterson or Abigail Schreier. There are various people who've been writing about this subject. It actually goes back to Emile Durkheim, the great sociologist, who wrote a book on suicide, in which he tried to understand why suicide rates are higher in his time and place among Protestants than among Catholics and Jews. And he proposed this view. He said, look, the problem is that our Protestants have not kept a hierarchical structure in which the children grow up as part of a family, and the family is part of a congregation, and the congregation is part of a larger religious framework. And children growing up in that kind of a hierarchical social structure, Durkheim argued, they don't have problems with freeing themselves from things that they don't like. But the advantage in such a structure is that there is a path that has been developed over many generations that allows young people to begin, kind of at the bottom of society as infants, not knowing how to do anything, and to gradually rise in honor and public respectability and self-respect and self-esteem, knowing how to do things, knowing how to get things done, knowing how to cause people around them to respect them. And that is something that no individual, no free individual, no bunch of individuals exercising their freedom is capable of inventing that by themselves. Okay, so if you're a young person and you're feeling what Durkheim called anomie, the aimlessness, the despair, the depression of not knowing a direction, not being able to invent a direction for yourself. Nietzsche thought that people, would be able to invent directions for themselves. It turns out almost nobody can do that. So the first step to health is to go to a local congregation, okay? And this can be Catholic or Protestant or Orthodox Christian or Jewish. These are very different religions, and there are other religions that are also even more different. They're different from one another. Each one is different. But what a functioning traditional congregation can offer you is adults, married couples, who have stayed together for their whole lives, who have raised children, sometimes many children, who know how it's done. And you can join and begin participating. You don't have to begin as a believer because you don't understand what they're doing. You don't have to believe anything. You just have to say, I am coming here to learn. You have to give honor to those people who have succeeded in keeping marriages together their whole lives, who have raised children, who've created a flourishing community, who know how it's done. You need to go and participate. And through that participation, through giving honor to people who have achieved something, you yourself then begin the process of learning how it's done. You become a part of the chain of transmission, and you start to learn how you can also lead a conservative life, not a liberal life, a life that's about conservation and transmission to future generations. And I in the book, I I did something I've never done before. I included a personal chapter about myself and my wife Yael. The reason I did this is because, I'm telling people how they should live, and I started to feel that if I don't tell my story, then people you'll say, who is this guy? He's making it up. And so, although it's very personal, the point of that last chapter of the book is that this is what my wife and I did. This is what many of our friends in university did together with us. This is what tens of thousands of people, have done always, in our generation and previous generations. The return to a traditional life, it is possible, it is doable. It looks daunting, but take the first step and be patient. It works. It brings health and sanity to the individual. And once these communities are strong enough and self-confident enough, they will be able to have a very great influence also at the regional level, at the local level, and then ultimately at the national level.